And we are all surprised that there is yet another lawsuit that came out against Diddy. I know, we can't believe it, right? And this one is by someone who is actually pretty close to him, someone who was signed to his record label, someone who was featured on one of his TV shows. And we're going to get into the lawsuit here shortly. If y'all haven't heard, Sara Stokes, also known as, well, I won't say her name. We know her as Sara Stokes. She is filing a lawsuit against Diddy. We're going to get into the full lawsuit here. We won't break down the whole thing, but I want to read the important parts and give the story a background of what happened. I found some interesting videos, though, from Sara back in the day she made with her and her husband that were kind of weird. Anyway, this is a video that she did with her husband talking about her being signed to Diddy. Check this out.
When your wife was
Hey, y'all don't be joking like that. God, he took his ring off? Oh, that's awkward. Sara Stokes, an ex-member of Diddy's group, The Band, creates a parody skit with her husband poking fun at the fact that she was once signed to Diddy. Now, this happened last year in September 21st of 2024, and they since apologized. Well, not really apologized, but I guess people didn't find it funny and they had some backlash from this. What did they say on their Instagram? Sara Stokes, aka Sarah Rivers from The Band, releases a joint statement with her husband after they did a few Diddy skits. What did they say? Certain assaults and domestic violence will never be subjects of humor. Okay. I did not highlight the tragedy of the allegations. Rather, I focused on the infamous reputation of the events, which have been talked about for years as some of the most notable parties in the entertainment history. My response reflects a realistic portrayal of how anyone who is seriously involved with someone that could have participated in these events might react. This is not meant to downplay any allegations, but rather to bring attention to a question many have wondered: who willingly participated in these events? Now, I preface that to say she is now filing a lawsuit against Diddy. Recently filed over the past several days, Sara Rivers, formerly known as Sara Stokes, is now going after Diddy. We're going to look into this. We're going to see what happened and give you guys an overview of what's going on. All right. Here's the preliminary statement. On November 16th of 2023, Cassie, we're going to call her, filed a 35-page lawsuit in which she exposed Diddy of subjecting her to nearly a decade of physical, other things, sexual, and emotional abuse, punctuated by, I'm not going to say that word, trafficking, and being forced to engage in drug-fueled, non-consensual encounters or intimacy with other men. Diddy's lawyers would say differently. We'll get to that at a later point. Ordinarily, when a lawsuit such as Cassie is filed that involves events that took place long ago, witnesses are few and far between and evidence hard to muster. So basically, they're prefacing this by saying, we might not have a lot of evidence behind this, but I'm just saying what happened. Not so for the claims brought against Diddy. Within minutes of the filing of Cassie's claim, were confirmed by various witnesses, including a viral musician whose car Diddy blew up. That was Kid Cudi, they're alleging. Various individuals who observed defendant Combs beat Cassie, and the video released by CNN showing the defendant Combs physically abusing, battering, and assaulting Cassie. Bad. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Since Cassie's brave decision to file a lawsuit against Diddy has accumulated numerous lawsuits across the country for the same conduct alleged by Cassie. The number is growing and continuous in various jurisdictions throughout the United States. In September 2024 of last year, Diddy was arrested in the Southern District of New York, where he's currently being held with no bond while awaiting various serious criminal charges. Plaintiff now alleges she too is one of many victims of defendant Combs or Diddy and other defendants named herein. Plaintiff can support her allegations and has suffered extreme emotional distress.
signed to Diddy.
No know we had to do a remix, right?
Don't stop. Yeah. Don't.
Anyway, the plaintiff can support her allegations and has suffered extreme emotional distress impacting nearly every aspect of the plaintiff's life and personal relationships. Given all the brave individuals who have come forward against defendant Combs Diddy, plaintiff is also doing the same. A complaint similar to the plaintiff's herein was filed by another plaintiff who was part of a second installment of the television show titled Making the Band, MTV. Originally produced by Murray, then airing on MTV, much of the allegations plaintiff made therein are similar in nature as the plaintiff in this matter. Plaintiff in this matter was pioneer of Making the Band 2 hip-hop television show, which originally aired on October 19th of 2002. Plaintiff brings this action seeking injunctive, declaratory, and monetary relief against the defendant in violation of the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Law, Gender-Motivated Violence Act, New York City, Admin Code. Y'all can see that there. Okay, we're going to skip through the jurisdiction and venue. And then we have, of course, some information about the Gender-Motivated, let me make sure I say that right, Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. And we're going to get into the parties. We know who Sarah is, but we'll read a little bit about her. Miss Sarah Rivers is a resident of the state of Michigan and was employed by Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, and so on and so forth. That's who she is. We have the defendant. Y'all know who he is. Sean Diddy Combs up in here. Shout out to Diddy. We've got Bad Boy Entertainment. We've got Tracy Waples. Oh, who is Tracy? We're just going to call her Tracy because I'm probably saying her name wrong. Upon information and belief, resides and is domiciled within the state of New Jersey. At all times relevant herein, defendant Tracy was either the vice president of marketing at Bad Boy Entertainment and Bad Boy Records in New York, or general manager at Bad Boy Entertainment and Bad Boy Records in New York. Okay, so Tracy and Allison had seen some things, which is probably what we're going to get into here shortly. We got Tracy, we got Allison, we got Chris up in here. We've got Mr. Stevens, because I'm going to mess up his name. We've got Norma. Oh, Lord, she's going after everybody. We've got Mr. Fosworth. Oh, goodness. Tony, say it ain't so. We've got Mickey up in here. Oh, she's going after everybody. We got D-Dot, Jason Wiley, and Bad Boy Entertainment. We've got Phil Robinson. Did they all know? Sean Perez. Oh, this is a mess. We've got UMG is mentioned in this one too. No, they can't catch a break. They cannot catch a break. We've got Janice Combs. Oh man. And all of them in here. We've got Paramount Global taking shots. We've got Viacom in here as well. What did they do? I guess they gave Diddy money, so they're in trouble. We've got MTV. We've got Jackie French, Lou Pearlman. We've got Murray in here as well. We've got Town Square Media Group. Don't even know who that is. And we've got some Doe defendants in here as well. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a mess. All right, if y'all get ready for this one. This is going to be wild. Here we go. Factual allegations. The plaintiff is selected from an open call audition to be a semifinalist in the inaugural hip hop edition of Making the Band. The television show entitled Making the Band MTV originally aired on ABC on March 24th of 2000 for 3 seasons ending on March 30th, 2002. Making the Band was created by defendant Lou and founders of the defendant BM, Mary Ellis and Jonathan Murray. The group that was made during the inaugural season was a boy band and a pop group, O-Town. The O-Town season is referred to as MTB1. The group O-Town was assembled by defendant Lou. Defendant Lou is also responsible for the boy band supergroups Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. Shout out to Lou, man. Very successful. Upon information and belief, defendants Lou, BM, and MTV decided the next season of Making the Band it would form a hip hop group. Defendants Lou, BM, and MTV enlisted defendant Diddy to find a group from an open casting and have it filmed, produced, and aired on television, referred to as Making the Band 2. The plaintiff, while in Atlanta pursuing her already blossoming music career, received a call alerting her to an open casting call for a music group by defendant Diddy. Plaintiff immediately returned home to Detroit to audition for the potential group. Plaintiff was the seventh person to be sent out of thousands of people who appeared to have a chance at music stardom with defendants MTV, Bad Boy, and Diddy. Plaintiff was selected as a semifinalist and was told that the next steps would be to come to New York to continue the audition process, be evaluated by defendant Diddy, and ultimately have an opportunity to be a member in the group being formed on the new season of Making the Band called Making the Band 2. What follows is all a sequence of events that were documented by defendant BM and aired on defendant's MTV's network between October 19th, 2002 and April 20th of 2004. It is important to note plaintiff was never compensated for her participation on Making the Band 2. Wow. That's tough. Making the Band 2 Season 1, Episode 1, Open Call, Initial Talent Search. First episode describes the show as the second installment, but this time looking to form a hip-hop group called Making the Band 2. In this episode, we meet the plaintiff. Shout out to Sara Stokes. Defendant Harv explains defendant MTV held auditions for candidates in Detroit, Miami, New York, Atlanta, LA, and DC and Baltimore to be members of the new hip-hop group formed by defendants Diddy and Making the Band 2. Diddy meets with an unidentified executive, John Doe 1, who is never named while appearing on the show, presumably an employee of defendant MTV, regarding the next steps for the semifinalists from the open auditions of Making the Band 2. Also, also at this meeting is defendant Phil, a longtime friend and business executive working for defendant Diddy and his enterprises. During this meeting about Making the Band 2, Diddy takes a call from his son. How do they know all this? Defendant MTV transports through various Doe's common carriers all the semifinalists to New York City to meet the defendant Diddy for further consideration to be a part of the group. Defendant Diddy conducts auditions with the semifinalists. Okay, we've all seen it. We've got episode 2 of the same season, Search for More Talent. In this episode, celebrity cameos are made by Andre Harrell, Russell Simmons. Defendant Diddy meets with defendants MTV and BM to brainstorm ideas to promote casting. Defendant Diddy complains to defendant MTV that he doesn't feel like he has the talent from the current group of semifinalists to make a group, and the defendant MTV has to be involved in acquiring the talent so that Diddy can form a group. Defendant Diddy complains to the defendant MTV that he feels bamboozled by the defendant MTV into thinking this was something hot when it was not even good enough to make it into his office. Dang! He said, this talent y'all got is absolutely garbage. Defendant Diddy complains to defendant MTV that he doesn't feel like they are doing what they needed to do to help him promote this endeavor. Defendant Diddy then makes an analogy to describe the type of promotion he wanted from the defendant MTV regarding the Making the Band 2 production. When Puff on trial, what happens in the trial, the whole world knows about it. A Puffy trial is special. Defendant Diddy went... Okay. Defendant Diddy went on to say, since Making the Band was positive, he deserved the same attention and press as his trial coverage. Defendant Diddy complains to defendant Jackie that he needs kids on MTV to see it so everybody could get excited, and that defendant Diddy would not stop until he has seen everybody everywhere. Defendant Diddy then makes an analogy about not choosing a woman to leave the club with at 10 p.m. versus at the height of the night at 1:30 a.m. Oh my gosh. in an effort to explain why he should not stop until he has seen everybody everywhere. This guy is crazy. Here we go. Defendant Diddy went so far as to say he would wait as late as 3 a.m. to decide on what woman to leave the club with, to emphasize his seriousness on his comment to seeing everybody everywhere. So he wanted to get as much talent in there as possible. Defendant Diddy then offers the idea of a one-day New York only talent search. Diddy advises anyone who wants a chance at stardom to holler at us. Defendant Diddy states that he is very particular about choosing the members of the group because he is not going to put his name on anything not filling a void in the marketplace. Smart. As a result, to a seeming commitment to excellence, Defendant Diddy sends the finalists home. During the scene, when the contestants are told that they are being sent home, you can see the contestants signing documents. Plaintiff believes were contracts with defendants BM, MTV, Viacom, and Paramount. Defendant Diddy scolds the contestants' behavior to members of his staff and the staff of defendants BM and MTV, saying they were pampered because defendants BM and MTV bought them plane tickets and put them in hotels. The episode ends with celebrity appearances from rappers Loon and Foxy Brown. Making the Band Season 1, Episode 3. Oh man, we're still going. The semifinalists selected. A 48-hour New York City audition process begins as demanded by Defendant Diddy. Approximately 3,000 people show up for the first day of open auditions. Defendant Diddy, meanwhile, is getting ready for his performance on the Defendant's MTV Awards show called the Video Music Awards. Wait a sec. Was this in 2000? That's crazy. The interesting thing about this is because we just talked about the other lawsuit. Let me see. They're saying this is the network between 2002. That's interesting because the other lawsuit that Tony Busby filed was around the same time. Oh, man. Defendant Diddy, meanwhile, is getting ready for his performance on the Defendant MTV's award show called the Music Video Awards, or the VMAs. Defendant Diddy called MTV's executive, Ellie Cola. Cola and Defendant Diddy discuss Defendant Diddy's demand for more time to perform at the VMAs. Defendant Diddy's request is ultimately granted. Defendant Diddy chooses 15 of the original semifinalists to return to New York to continue consideration for the group. Contestants, including Sara, are placed in a hotel and share their hotel room with the roommate. Semifinalists are then transported from the hotel to a location where they audition for Diddy so he can select the candidates for Bad Boy Boot Camp. During this episode, Diddy provides insight on what he is looking for in group members, stating, "A lot of times, some of the biggest superstars haven't had the most talent or haven't had the most vocal ability, haven't been the perfect package, and that talent is just the icing on the cake." While waiting on selection, a candidate complains about the lack of receiving food. This same candidate is scolded by Tracy, who makes her first appearance as vice president of marketing for BBE. Defendant Tracy admonishes the contestant for complaining about not being fed and told the contestants she needed to be humble, somehow indicating that the desire to eat lacked humility. Diddy was told about the contestant's food comment, which Diddy responded by immediately eliminating that contestant from consideration to the group. They got chopped. Dang. That's tough. Diddy exposes his intent with the group members, stating he was literally going to try to break them. Oh, God. Diddy explains his desire to break the contestants because he says it's what the music industry tries to do to us every day, and complains about how being in the music industry is one of the hardest jobs to have. That is the truth. Diddy then further advises that people should never let anyone interrupt you from your dreams. Diddy then selects the contestants for the Bad Boy Boot Camp, which the plaintiff is selected. Okay, so what went down at the Bad Boy Boot Camp? Y'all still good? Y'all still with me? This is getting interesting. So, Making the Band 2, Season 1, Episode 4, The Boot Camp. In this episode, we are introduced to another executive for defendants Diddy, BBE, and Allison Stanley. Allison Stanley is who they're introduced to. Plaintiff and the contestants in the Bad Boy Boot Camp are transported from their hotel and taken to a park to work out with a personal trainer employed by BBE and Chris. Diddy makes another statement about his intent to break some of them in an hour. Man, maybe he should have been on The Biggest Loser if that's what they were doing. Or make them have a nervous breakdown and or make them pass out because become unhealthy and quit, he said. Defendant Divine, hopefully I'm saying that right. Defendant Divine, another employee and agent of Diddy and BBE, is sent to work with the female singers only on dance moves and choreography. This includes the plaintiff. Diddy arrives at the dance studio to watch the women dance for him. The plaintiff is required to dance individually for Diddy, Divine, Allison, and various other employees of MTV, BM, and BBE. The plaintiff was considered as one of the best dancers, or one of the better dancers. It is important to note the male singer nor any of the other male rappers or female rappers were forced to endure choreography and evaluations by Diddy. Contestants are then brought to BBE's offices for media training, where a brief argument ensues. Norma, an executive assistant to Diddy, admonishes the contestants, telling them that BBE offices are a place of business because they don't argue and fight there. So if there's a problem, they should leave. The episode ends with contestants being taken to the hospital by ambulance due to overexertion from the everyday morning workouts. Dang. All right, we got episode 5. The plaintiff discusses her family, comprised of her 3 younger children and husband. Diddy watches a video of plaintiff saying she believed him to be one of the smartest people she's ever met, a genius, while Diddy stands proudly next to the TV displaying the plaintiff making these statements. Diddy discusses how this season of Making the Band is different, saying it was not O-Town Cats, but something different. Diddy arranges for contestants to have a showcase at his restaurant, Justin named after his son. The showcase will determine the individuals who get to move on in the process and move into the house. 30 contestants perform for Diddy at the showcase to be one of the 12 individuals selected to move into the house for further consideration of the group. Defendant Diddy then again warns the contestant that if you make it into the house, I will try to break you one day, or I will try to break you day one. Diddy, seemingly aware of his outrageous conduct, states that he wasn't trying to make the process of being in the group over dramatic or tougher than what it is, but that it ain't a cakewalk. The plaintiff is called as the first contestant to make it to the next round and move into the house. All right, we've got the first elimination coming up, and then this goes on and on. I'm going to get into the rest of this at a later time. I know sometimes it can be a lot, but we're going to read on and see what happened after the finale, because a lot of this seems to be around Making the Band. This whole thing is 148 pages. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave a link to this full document in the Patreon. If y'all haven't checked it out, make sure you go over there, and we're going to read through this, and I'll give you guys a summary at a later point, but we might do some more of this on the next show. Let me know in the comments in the chat if y'all want to hear the full claim and what's actually going on here.